All of America once thought they knew Max Baer Jr. They remember that face, that distinctive voice, and the wide-eyed, naive expression of Jethro Bodie that flashed across televisions for nearly a decade. Yet when a single character dominates a lifetime in the public eye, what happens to the person behind it? Max Baer Jr.'s entry into popular culture wasn't the result of self-fashioning. Instead, he was absorbed entirely by character. The Beverly Hillbillies turned him into a household name, offering unprecedented recognition. But that very fame became a cage, compressing his intelligence, education, and personality into a one-dimensional comic archetype over which he had no control. Born December 4th, 1937, in Oakland, California, Max arrived in a family already steeped in notoriety. His father, Max Baer Sr., was a heavyweight boxing champion, a familiar face amid 20th century newspapers. Long before Max Jr. could understand himself, he was surrounded by the weight of an established public image. His childhood was stable, orderly, and secure, but always lived in the shadow of a reputation that preceded him. The Baer name carried expectation, subtly restricting the freedom in which a personal identity might normally grow. Raised in California, Max attended Christian Brothers High School in Sacramento, a disciplined Catholic institution emphasizing routine, obedience, and self-control. He was not the type to seek attention, but he participated in 4 different sports, not for accolades but for rhythm and structure. Golf, however, became his enduring pursuit. Unlike contact-heavy or boisterous sports, golf demanded patience, repetition, and responsibility. Winning 2 junior titles at the Sacramento Open came not from flair, but from consistent effort, rehearsing, refining, and accepting small errors. Success did not require an audience. It demanded persistence, focus, and self-discipline. After graduation, Max Baer Jr. attended Santa Clara University, majoring in business administration with a philosophy minor. Business provided practical frameworks, systems, strategy, and an understanding of order. Philosophy encouraged contemplation, ethics, and reflection on individual purpose within a broader world. Both disciplines ran side by side, shaping a young man cautious about fame, but prepared for life. Even at college, his surname carried weight. Casual interactions often shifted once people realized whose son he was, and Max learned to treat this attention as an ambient condition rather than a personal challenge. Entering the television industry in the early 1960s, he did not chase stardom. Acting felt like a logical extension of living under public scrutiny, now through another lens. Initially, he took small supporting roles in series like Maverick, Cheyenne, Hawaiian Eye, and Surfside 6. These brief appearances, an officer passing through town, a gambler here for 1 episode, rarely made his name memorable but established him as a reliable face for producers. On set, he was disciplined, punctual, and professional, learning the rhythms of production without seeking the spotlight. In 1962, Max Baer Jr. joined a new CBS sitcom, The Beverly Hillbillies. For him, it was just another contract, another steady role. For television, it was the creation of a cultural icon. Jethro Bodie, the tall, strong, and slow-witted cousin of Jed Clampett, was a physical comedic device. The blank stare, the clumsy walk, the delayed reactions. Max performed Jethro with exacting timing, hitting every comedic beat precisely as written. The character became instantly recognizable, adored by viewers, and repeated in cultural shorthand across newspapers, commercials, and everyday conversation. The show became a phenomenon. Ratings soared, attracting tens of millions weekly. Children mimicked Jethro's walk. Adults referenced him casually. Max Baer Jr.'s own identity was eclipsed by the character. 9 seasons of steady work established him as reliable and disciplined, yet also cemented the invisible barrier of typecasting. Offers outside the sitcom were limited to similar naive, comedic roles. Familiarity had become confinement. Off-screen, he was educated, disciplined, and reflective. On screen, he was Jethro, one-dimensional, entertaining, and complete. By the early 1970s, American television was changing. Rural comedies gave way to urban and socially conscious programming. CBS's Rural Purge swept away the Beverly Hillbillies in 1971. Post-show, Max Baer Jr. faced a unique challenge. The image of Jethro persisted, but there was little room for reinvention. Subsequent roles were small, brief, and often repeated the same comedic formula. He was not rejected. He was already too known. Max responded by turning to independent film. Mon County Line, 1974, which he co-wrote, produced, and starred in, had a budget under $200,000, yet grossed over $30 million, a record for revenue-to-cost ratio that stood for decades. He controlled production, marketing, and distribution, targeting regional audiences overlooked by mainstream Hollywood. This achievement demonstrated a strategic understanding of audience behavior and structural opportunity. He continued this path with The Wild McCullochs, 1975, taking near total creative control, and Ode to Billy Joe, 1976, where he purchased rights to a popular song and built the film's narrative around it. These projects reflected his dual focus: artistic independence and structural control over intellectual property. Legal battles over rights reinforced his understanding that ownership mattered as much as performance. His work in film revealed a man seeking autonomy from the character that had consumed his professional identity. Personal life remained equally measured. He married Joanne Hill in 1966, at the height of the Beverly Hillbillies' popularity. Their marriage stayed private, unconnected to his public persona. Fatherhood arrived alongside Jethro's omnipresence, yet family life operated on its own quiet rhythm. After their quiet divorce, he remained unmarried, and romantic relationships appeared only occasionally in public records. Deep friendships, like the one with co-star Buddy Essen, Jed Clampett, endure beyond the set. Essen remained a friend who knew Max before and beyond Jethro, a rare anchor outside the public's gaze. Tragedy touched him privately as well. In 2008, his live-in girlfriend died by suicide in their Lake Tahoe home. Media coverage was minimal, and the event remained intensely personal. Max Baer Jr. bore grief quietly, never using it to shape narrative or public perception. By 2015, following the death of Donna Douglas, Ellie Mae Clampett, he was the last surviving principal cast member. He declined participation in reunions, understanding that returning as Jethro would reinforce an identity he had long tried to separate from himself. Instead, he focused on controlling how the Jethro image circulated. Business ventures, including casinos, allowed him to capitalize on cultural memory without performing again. Intellectual property, contracts, and controlled distribution replaced acting as his arena. Max Baer Jr. had learned that fame could exist independently of personal involvement, and he treated it as such. Today, Max Baer Jr. lives quietly in Lake Tahoe. His days are structured: golf in the mornings, reading, and maintaining a steady routine. Recognition exists only in the background. It does not dictate his daily life. Media appearances are brief and measured, his private rhythm preserved. He has successfully claimed a life beyond the character that once defined him,